Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. It's now 9:17. I know we had to start late because of Minyan, but Emir Hashem, we'll get going. So we're going to get on to a really, really very, very interesting Inyan in this week's class. Something very deep, but we'll get to that a little bit later. In the meantime, we are going to let me just get us going here. Mute everybody. In the meantime, we have to catch up from where we were last week. And we should have kept going because we were mamish right at the very end. But we're at the end of this whole Torah where we were now explaining how everything that Rabbeinu Zal taught in this Torah, we're able to see it within this conversation between Rabbi Shua ben Chanania and the Sabbai de Beatuna, the wise men of Athens. And there's a quick recap of the way this goes. If you have the BRI book, this one, and this is volume 4, then it's on page 43. And it said like this: the wise men of Athens said, "Tell us something false," meaning what is considered something false. So Rabbi Yeshua said we had a mule, which is what was meant by that was the desire for money and greed is compared to idolatry. Why? Because, one second, I'll find the place over here. Because of course we know that idolatry is sheker. Idolatry is absolute sheker. It's the epitome of sheker, of falsehood in the world, because idolatry is the place where we say that there's some kind of power in the world other than the power of Hashem. So idolatry is false. Okay, so Rabbi Yeshua said we had a mule. We had a kidanaisa. Right? 1 second. Find the spot again. I apologize. Heavy lung kidanaisa v'yalda. We had a mule and it gave birth, and kidanaisa zupirda. So they said to him that it gave birth. So giving birth means to have profits. So meaning that it seems like the desire for money is something that looks like it has profit, that it gives you profit, but really it's all false. It's all sheker. And there was a note hanging on its neck that your father's estate owes me 1,000 coins. So he said that because you have money, it draws you after more and more money, and it puts you into a place of wanting to take loans and to getting deep into debt and to having this terrible negative relationship with money. Right? This all happens through this thing. And someone who gets deep into this relationship with money in such a negative way, they carry it as if it's a last will and testament of their own parent. Meaning, like this: if you're sitting, we should not know of it, but you're sitting on the deathbed of your parents, and they tell you, there's one thing I have to give over to you. One thing. If you remember one thing, this is my last will and testament to you. This is what I think is important. Like, you're going to do it, right? Please make sure that you cremate my pet and scatter the ashes from a hot air. I don't know. Whatever it is, people are going to go and make every effort they can to be makayim the wishes of the last will and testament of their parent. On the other hand, it was a custom that holy people, would write a shtar tzava, a will, like an ethical will, not a divvying up the money will, a will of what they felt was important. Thank you so very much. Would write such a will to their children. And this will would just tell the children what is important to them, like morals and all these kinds of things. And so it's such a thing. It's important, right? So that's the good way. But we're saying over here that when somebody has this relationship with money, this negative, terrible relationship with money, and they've become so drawn into this taivas mammon, into this desire for money, they carry this burden like such a mission from their own parent. Like a last will and testament of their own parent. That's how strong it is to them. Right? So he said, so they asked him back, but does a mule give birth? And he says, no. But why? Because a mule is sterile. It can't give birth. It can't have profits. What's pshat? It's falsehood. We feel like we have money. We feel someone in this situation. We feel like we have access to money, credit cards, and this and that. But really, there's no profits. Really, it's sheker. When we're attached to taivas mammon, we're attached to avodah zarah, to idolatry. Even though it has a pull and it feels good, it feels profitable, it's all sheker, and it's all just going to crumble in the end. So he said, that's the falsehood. That's what it is. The only profits are from real truth, the Ora Panim of Hashem. So then they asked him back, if salt spoils, how can you preserve salt? So what was that supposed to mean? It's supposed to mean that the way that a person can be saved from greed, from taivas mammon, is through tikkun habris, the bris melech, the covenant of the salt. So as a special aid, as a power to be able to be kept far away from taivas mammon, from the negative desire for money, the inyan of sexual purity, of guarding of the bris, is a tremendous power that can save a person from this. So he said, how do you do that? How are you going to do it though? What if I'm doing that and still I'm getting drawn into it? So he says, you got to look at the placenta of the mule. With the placenta of the mule. Why do we say placenta? So the placenta represents the source of life of the vlad, of the fetus, of the baby, right? So he said, there's a deeper way to approach this. If you're trying really hard and you're working on the midah of kedusha babris, and you're still having trouble, so you got to look to the source. The placenta is the source, meaning look way up there and find, where does this desire come from? Where does this desire come from? Where in a deep place? How can I connect to that desire? Because if I can connect to the desire on a very, very high level, then I can wipe out the need for the lower level. So I'm not sure how much we explained this last time. There's a tremendous Torah from Rabbi Shimon Morgenstern on this inyan, where he explains that the most important thing when we are facing taivas, these desires that we have, is, like the famous saying people say in the Welt, knowledge is power, right? So he says this, seichel, our intellect, is a very powerful tool. And when we really know something, it can help us to act in a different way. So he says, what we need to know is that desire that we have for something. Like let's just say it's a desire for food. It's a desire for let's say cake. It's relatively innocuous. The desire for cake, right? So we want it. We want to eat it. And the animal aspect of us wants to animalistically eat the cake, right? And why do we have it? Nothing can be here if it doesn't come from Hashem, especially in the realm of desire. So he says, really, there's a desire, there's something very holy and special in this cake. and at its highest levels, it's a tremendous light. It's a nitzos de kedusha. It's a spark of holiness that is there for us to redeem, for us to be able to grab a hold of and elevate, right? But what happens is, when that spark of holiness comes down from the high olamas, the high universes, and it comes down into this world, as it descends into this concealed, dark, difficult world, it becomes enclosed in something chitzoni, in something surface level, that hides what the true essence of it is, the true, incredible, spiritual pleasure that is at the essence of this, and it encloses it in a piece of cake, right? Or in a steak, or in gold, or in someone of the opposite gender, or someone of the same gender, whatever it is, right? It gets to something tumah. So he says, if we could just realize that the level of pleasure that we can experience from the true light that's in this thing is so much more powerful, and we can actually experience it. It's so much more powerful, right? We have to know that. We have to know that this thing, we're throwing away something of extreme, incredible, unbelievable value and pleasure for something of momentary pleasure, right? And what happens with that momentary pleasure? How do you feel after you eat the cake when you know you shouldn't? You don't even have the pleasure for 2 minutes, and already you feel guilty, right? Maybe not even physically good, right? Depending on how much you ate. It doesn't last. It's a very short pleasure. Mashen Kane, if we can attach ourselves, so how does he? So he says, how do you attach yourself to that pleasure? How do you get the real pleasure? So he says that the way to that pleasure is through hiskabrus. Hiskabrus means hitgabrut. It means to strengthen oneself and overcome. What happens is when we overcome that desire, with this knowledge that we know that there's something much deeper and much more spiritually pleasurable over here, that releases the klippas. It releases the shells that are surrounding this, and allows us to actually access the real holiness that is in there. Meaning, when we stand up and we say, "No, I'm being misgaber. I'm going to overcome this. I'm not allowing myself to go for this cake, or for this gold, or whatever it is. I'm not doing it. I'm standing up. I'm strong, standing strong, and doing it, Hashem." Right? The binds are released, and that spark of kedusha is available to us, and we can experience it, and we'll taste some tremendous pleasure from that. So I thought of a statement for this, because like people say that a fat person who lost a lot of weight, right? So they have the saying that nothing tastes as good as skinny. You ever heard that? Nothing tastes as good as skinny, right? So when someone lost all their weight and they're skinny, they're like, I don't care about that stuff, how good it tastes, because feeling like I lost my weight, nothing tastes better than that, right? So my new statement is, nothing tastes as good as hiskabrus. Nothing tastes as good as overcoming, right? That's going to attach us to real pleasure. Anyway, that's a little shtickle of a side point, of a tangent, a bit, not really, but that's just a further explanation of what he's saying over here. Okay, good. So now we find ourselves on, is that where we are? Yeah, so we're on page 40, just before the end of this back and forth. V'shorish ha'ashbais, hu mechuna b'shem shilia. So he's just explaining what we were just talking about. The root of all hashba, of all divine flow from Hashem, is called by the name of shilia, which is placenta. Shesham munach havlad. That's the place where the fetus is. So I think he translated it as placenta. The way he's explaining it, Rabbi Nachman's explaining it over here, it sounds like it should be the uterus. But let's just keep going. Shesham munach havlad. That's the place where the fetus is placed. Ki shilia hu bechinas dalse bitni. The placenta, the shilia, refers to the walls of my womb. Because there's two doorways, openings to the womb of a woman. Like the pasuk says in Eov, Ki loy sagar dalse bitni. The doors of my womb have not been shut, have not been closed. Doors, plural. Okay, it makes sense if you think about it. V'naseh mishnei dalsin, and if you take the two doorways. In Hebrew language, the word for a doorway is a dalet, right? Dalet. It's also the same name as the letter dalet. The same letter. Dalet, lamed, taf. Is dalet, doorway, or dalet, the letter, right? So if you take two, we're saying that there's two doorways to the womb of a lady, and now we're saying that if you take 2 times the letter dalet, one like this, like, just kind of like an L sort of upside down. You take the other one. So what happens is you make a square. Like this. Okay, one like this, one like this. They come together and they make a square. What do they make? They make what's called a mem stuma. The final letter mem in the Hebrew alphabet is just like a square, right? So 2 doorways, two dalets make a closed mem, which is like the enclosed area of the womb of a woman. Shesham munach havlad. That's the place where the fetus stays. V'hu bechinas mem yoim shel yetziras havlad. And in a time level, it corresponds to the 40 days of the formation of the fetus, presumably meaning, and we say that after 40 days the soul comes in. There's a 40-day period of formation of the fetus. So what he's saying over here, right? What's pshat over here? Is that corresponding to this physical aspect of the way a baby is formed inside of a woman. And there's these 2 doorways, 2-letter dalets that make a place for it to stay in. It's that 40-day period of development, right? Just like when a lady becomes pregnant, she grows within her something very special and important, and then it's born into the world. So too in Ruchnius, positive spiritual energy is created by zivugim up in the upper worlds, and there's pregnancies that take place throughout the Kisvei Arizal. There's levels of pregnancy, of conception, pregnancy, trimesters. There's all kinds of things that happen in Kabbalah that correspond directly to the growth of a child in a woman. And just like the woman will eventually give birth, so too that spiritual energy will eventually descend onto us. She says, so too there is above, upstairs, doorways to heaven. Not stairway to heaven, doorways to heaven. So I saw Sheldon Hirschkopf came in, so that's between us. Shemisham noilad hashpa, that's the place where hashpa is noilad, where hashpa is born, right? So hashpa means the flow of divine spiritual energy coming down onto us. Like the pasuk says in Tehillim, Dalse Shemayim Pesach v'yamter haleihem ka'afar she'er, that the doorways of heaven should open and it should rain down upon them like earth, I guess. It should rain down upon them meat, like to eat, as plentiful as the dust of the earth. This is what he answered them. The source. This is the fact that a person is shomer bris when he falls into taivas mamoin. The pirda, is there such thing as a placenta to a mule that's sterile? Ki akum ein lo afilu beis vlad. The avodas kakavim umazales, the avodah zara, the statue. It has nothing. It doesn't have never mind 2 doors. It doesn't have 1 door. It doesn't have a womb. It doesn't give birth. Nothing comes from it. It's a rock. So it doesn't even have this. Milcha misaria, and can salt spoil? Ki be'emes mi shetikein bris, because someone who is masakein bris, who behaves in a very special pure way, like the bris of the salt, eino noifel taivas will not fall into taivas mammon. Meaning, this whole thing about the place of shefa upstairs, right? It means to say that when we steer ourselves clear of taivas mammon and avodah zara and pagam habris, bad relationship with money, bad relationship physically with people, and bad relationship with idols, right? When we go down that path, things don't work. There's no reproduction. There's no fruits born into the world. It's all a place of sheker. Mashen kein. If we have good relationships with people and good relationships with money, and we have emunah in Hashem, then the doors of heaven open up. Then there's pregnancies of spiritual energy that are created that then will be born into the world. Positive energies will be born. Shefa will be born. Spiritual flow of energy will be born. We'll have the money that we need. We'll have the relationships that we need, and we'll have the simcha that we need of having a good relationship with Hashem. So that's how it all fits into the wise men of Athens. Okay. So now we're on section Vav. It says like this: Anshe damim umirma lo yechatzu yamehem. A pasuk says in Tehillim. So men of bloodshed and trickery will not have half their days. Lo yechatzu yamehem. Hainu mishahu bal machlokes, someone who gets into a lot of fights and machlokes in v'noifel taivas mammon and falls into taivas mammon, meaning anshe damim. So dam and damim. On the one hand, it's the word for blood, right? On the other hand, damim is also the word, particularly in Talmudic. It's probably Aramaic, might have a Hebrew connection. Is the word for money also, damim. Right, so someone who falls into taivas mammon, anshe damim, v'yamav kalim berefida achar moisaros. Their days are eaten up, are consumed by chasing after money all the time. We don't need to give more examples for this, but we will in a second. That they don't live out half their days. She'ein adam meis v'chatzi taivaso biyadai. Right, so we see the Medrash says this, that a person does not get to the end of their lives. A person who has taivas mammon in particular, they're not going to make it to the end with even half of what their desires are. right? The famous statement is, if a person has 100, he wants 200. And some of the Mefarshim like to say that the next step is not, if he has 200, he wants 300. It's if he has 200, he wants 400. If he has 400, he wants 800. And it keeps going and going and going. The more I have, the more I want. Imagine if you have someone who's very poor, and you said, oh my gosh, you might have, here's a lottery ticket. I hope you win. And they could win, $500,000. They'd be like, oh my gosh, I have a new life. Everything is taken care of. Everything is fixed, and I have so much money. I'm rich. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. Tell someone who owns a house in Toronto and has a mortgage, you won $500,000. They'd be like, fantastic, but now I still have to have a mortgage for another 20 years to pay off the rest of my house. Right? Person who has already $500,000 is nothing to them. It's not nothing, but you know what I'm getting at, right? It means less the more a person has. Right? It's a psychological thing, but it's also a spiritual thing. So he says, "V'zeh lo yechetzu." They won't half. She'ein masig chatzi taivasoy kamu v'le'el al pasuk. He's not going to fulfill half of his desires, like we're going to say later on. V'yegaresh mepanecha oye v'yomer hashmed. And we're going to say in another pasuk that he shall drive the enemy from your countenance and proclaim destroy. Okay, so we're going to see that later on. We're not going to get into it at this current moment. But here at this point, Reb Nosson says, Ad kan l'shen Rabbeinu. Up until now is the words of Rabbi Nachman Zechron Levracha. This is what he wrote in his actual, Rabbi Nachman wrote in his manuscript. Right? And Reb Nosson compiled it and put it over here. He's now going to go into, for the next, we might finish it today and next week, or it might be 3. But he's going to go now in Reb Nosson fashion, which is awesome, and give us some other explanations, deeper explanations that he heard also from Rabbi Nachman when he gave over the lesson. Thank you for that. How are you all holding up with the smoke outside? You noticing it at all?
No.
You don't notice it?
I just don't go outside.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was okay. I'm just I'm noticing already this afternoon and evening. It's a little hard for me to breathe a bit. I sometimes have asthma, but anyway. Okay. So let's go now on in Reb Nosson, and we're going to get to something very, very cool today in Yirtzeh Hashem. Okay. And this is like David HaMelech concluded in his Tehillim, Va'ani evtach bach, and I will trust in you, Hashem. Shehu hipuch mitayvas mammon. This is the opposite of tayvas mammon. Nosson is telling us, what's the opposite of desire for money? Is I have bitachon in Hashem. I trust in Hashem. Ki hameshuka b'tayvas mammon. Someone who is sunken into tayvas mammon, eino b'teich b'Hashem, does not trust in Hashem. Ki hu oved kol akum. He's serving all the idols in the world. He thinks that power comes from here, power comes from there, power's in my hands. That once I get this money, then I'll be happy. Once I get that money, then I'll be happy. Never going to happen. Right? The money will never make it happen. The Beatles knew it. Right? Money can't buy me love. But someone who trusts in Hashem is a different story. Va'ani evtach bach. I will trust in you, Hashem. Shetuchol lahazmin li parnasasi b'sibakala. Someone with real bitachon says, I know, Hashem, that you can give me my parnasa b'sibakala, in like a blink of an eye, in a very simple way, in an easy way. Right? You have people who are so in the realm of the Chacham, right? From the Talmud Chacham, meaning the quote unquote Chacham, that they feel that they have to come up with such tachbula, such plans, and such ways, and have to work so hard and think so, all these different, if I get this, then I get that, then I get this, then I get that, and they're going so crazy to try and figure things out, and they're not working out, they're not making any money, and the less it works out, the harder they try, and the more they think and think and think and think, and come up with new wisdoms to try and do this, right? And it never works out for such people. Right? They don't believe in this inyan. He says over here, this is what David HaMelech meant. That you could give me my parnasa, Hashem, in an easy way. It doesn't have to be like this. And I will be happy with my portion. And I will not be sunken into this desire for money. Right? So people such a person who's such a chacham and is so involved in this will say, oh, come on, I have to do my part. I have to do my hishtadlus. And I can't just trust that Hashem is going to give me what I need. Is there a kernel of truth to that? Yes, we have to do our part. But really, it's more of the outlook. It's more of the way the person really feels. Right? Because when a person is constantly thinking like this, and overthinking, and overplanning, and overworking, and doing all this stuff for money, even if they say, I know Hashem could give me it, right? They don't, the proof is in the pudding, right? The proof is in the pudding. On the other hand, you could have someone who doesn't do anything, and Hashem doesn't want that either. But somebody who has a healthy perspective and really trusts Hashem, really has this feeling that Hashem can give me my parnasa. I'm going to do my part, and Hashem's going to give me the parnasa. What do I always say? It's not up to us, the outcome. Our job is to do what we're supposed to do, and Hashem will make the outcome happen. Right? This is what David HaMelech is saying. I trust in you, Hashem. And I don't have to go to the ends of the earth in order to do this, because you can take care of me this way. Says the guy who drives 3 hours a day to go out to Niagara and back. But, okay. Valkain. These who are sunken into this desire for money, the more wealth they have, they have more worry and sadness and unhappiness, let's say, melancholy, they usually translate it. Even more. So what are we saying over here? To quote another musical sensation from decades after the Beatles, more money, more problems. Right? The more, it's saying over here, the more money we have, the more worry we have, the more sadness we have. Such a person, anyway. It's possible to be a wealthy person and to be a Baal Bitachon and a Baal Emunah and to be in good shape, right? But the type of person that we're talking about over here, who's not a Baal Bitachon and not a Baal Emunah, will never be happy, right? And the more money they have, the more worry they'll have. Because he's living in a world where when Adam HaRishon and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas, Tov v'Ra, they brought a tremendous negativity into our existence, right? And the curse that came into the world because of this was Be'itzavan Tochalena. You're going to eat your bread through sadness. B'zeh asapecha, also the sweat of your brow. It's all going to come in a difficult way. Your parnasa is going to be difficult, and it's going to be worrisome and stressful and sad. This is the life that this person is living in. Shehu bechinas atzvus umar shachara. It's melancholy and sadness. Anpin chashuchin, darkened face, as opposed to the illuminated face of Hashem. Right? It's darkened face. And the illuminated face of a person with bitachon. Misa, an aspect of death. That's also what happened when they made the sin, right? They brought bitzavan techalena, in sadness you'll eat your bread, b'zeh asapecha, the sweat of your brow, and also Misa came into the world. There was no death before that. They also brought death into the world. V'alkein, kol ma sheyesh lo mamon v'ashiris yoser, the more money and wealth that they have, they're going to have more sadness, more melancholy, more worries. Because the very essence of the wealth that they have itself is coming from such a source. And this is what Chazal say in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. I'm sure we've all heard it. Mar be'nechasim, mar be'daiga. When we increase our possessions, our wealth, we increase worry and stress. That's certainly a person is going to increase their stress and their sadness through the more possessions and wealth they have. Because by then, the money itself is an aspect of sadness. The more they have, the more their worry and stress and sadness will be increased. It's like Ki'ilu, in a certain sense. It's like the Indian of like a heroin addict. Right? They have such a desire, such a powerful desire for heroin, and it's overcoming, right? And they think it's the biggest pleasure, and they can't wait. And when they have it, when they first get it, it's the biggest pleasure. But it itself is sadness. It's false. It's totally fake. Just like we're equating this taivas mamon in this way to avodah zarah. It's not real. It's fake. It's sheker. Right? So too, this relationship with money, it's all false. A person thinks that if I would just get a raise of another X amount of thousands of dollars per month, I'd be fine. You know what's going to happen after that thousands of dollars a month? You'll taste the pleasure for a few short, I don't know, days maybe, months, whatever it is, and then you'll already be bitter. You'll be sad again. If your relationship with money is in this negative way, right? Just like the heroin addict. Yeah, that pleasure comes and it's like the biggest pleasure for a minute, and then it just all slips away, and it's because it's all false. It's sheker. It's not real. Same thing. V'alkein hamamon va'ashirus hu makatzer u'machale yamav v'chayav shel adam. So money and wealth shortens and consumes the days and the life of a person. Because there's nothing that causes someone to lose their health more than worry and sadness, as is known by doctors. Right? We all know this. Right? Stress is not good for the heart. Stress is not good for the body. Sadness, it puts us into all kinds of terrible health situations. And money and wealth just increases worry and sadness. Therefore, he loses and his life is lost and consumed. Once again, remember, it's not the money itself. There's nothing wrong with having a good parnasa and being wealthy. It can be very positive. It's just all about the relationship that we have with it. Is it in a way of ani avtach b'Hashem? I have emunah and bitachon in Hashem, or is it in this really, really negative way of avodah zarah? Right? This is gonna come to a very big fruition today. This inyan of there's two ways to see it over here. There's two relationships, right? Because you could read this and you could say, what? Rabbi Nachman wants us to not have money, right? He's not saying that wealth and money is bad. He's saying that when a person has this relationship, the more wealth and money they have, the worse off they will be. Yeah? Kihu makushar bepanim the sitra achra. He's connected now. He's makushar to the face of the sitra achra, of the evil side. Elokim acherim, other gods. Avodah zarah, choshech, darkness. Shebechinas misa, which is an aspect of death. Heifech, the opposite of or panei melech hayim, the opposite of the light of the face of the living God. Valkein hamamon meimisa. Therefore, the money will kill this person. Kihu bechinas misa. He's in this aspect of misa, of death. Bechinas misa, shehu atzvos, which is sadness. Shekol zehu bechinas taivas mamon. This is all the aspect of taivas mamon. Taivas mamon. The unhealthy desire for money. Okay to make money. Okay to be wealthy. Fantastic. Give a lot of tzedakah, do a lot of mitzvahs. It's all great. But that unhealthy taiva of mammon is what's going to destroy us. And this is what is written. So the curse that was given to the snake in that same situation was that you will eat dirt your whole life. Right? Afar. So afar really refers to money. How do you see that? So the pasuk says that in Eov, it says that its dust, its earth is gold, is made of gold. That's what the pasuk is saying over there. Hainu. But what is it? It's connecting the concept of afar, earth, dirt, and gold together, and money. Hainu. Shehamamon va'ashirus shehu b'chinas afar. This aspect of money and wealth that is connected to the word afar, which means dirt over here. Toichal kol yemei chayecha. It will be consumed your entire life. Ki hamamayim hi oicheles umechala kol yemei chayav shel adam. It's going to consume you. The curse is not like this. The regular translation is that the snake was cursed by saying, you're going to have to eat earth your whole life. Right? That's the curse that the snake got. He's saying that's not, on a deeper level, it means something different. It means that money, afar, right, as we're connecting it over here, is going to consume you your whole life. The issue of money, the taiva, the desire of money, will consume you, will consume your whole life. It will ruin your life. Just remember how many terrible things have happened because of the desire of money. How many people have done things that they would never do because of money? How many politicians have been toppled because of money? How many marriages have broken up because of money? How many business partners have become mortal enemies because of money? Money, when it's not in the right frame, is one of the most destructive forces in the universe. Oy vavoy. We should all be saved. Okay, weiter. We're getting there. So at the same time, so we just brought from this pasuk that the word afar, which means the earth, dirt, is connected to mammon, to money. There's another place that we see afar and earth meaning something else, and that is it's absolutely related to sadness, right? Which is this aspect of Tavas One, like it says in the Tikkunei Zohar. So before we get to the Tikkunei Zohar, there's different midos that are associated with the different elements, right? So we've seen before that fire is like the midah of anger, and water is like the midah of taivas, of physical desires, and air is like the midah of gaiva, of arrogance, and avhar, earth, is like this midah of atzvus, of sadness, depression. It's like someone who's very sad. How do they feel? An angry person feels fiery, right? A taiva person, their physical desires, there's a flood, right? The boundaries are overflowing. A haughty person is like very airy, way up there, right? Up in the clouds. But a person who has sadness and depression is carrying a weight, is heavy, is being pulled down to the earth, right? They're like heavy like the earth. That's one aspect, how we see that the earth is connected to sadness. But in the Tikkunei Zohar, it says like this: Afar iu kar v'yavish. Earth is cold and dry. Hachi techul kar v'yavish. So too, the what's it called? The spleen, I think it is cold and dry. U'me'techul nimshach ha'atzvos kayedua. And as it's known, don't ask me, I don't really know, that the spleen is the source of sadness. This is what he says over there and at the end of this passage in the Tikkunei Zohar. Because of this, that's what he said about the snake. You'll eat dust all the days of your life. Now go over there and see what he said over there. You'll understand it in a much deeper way. And this is what it says over there in the Tikkunei Zohar. Okay. There's this word over here. We just have to give a little bit of an introduction over here. There's this. First of all, there's kind of a general rule that we don't say the names of angels or evil spiritual forces, right? We don't say their names. So there's this famous, terrible spiritual force that we call the Samech Mem, right? Its name is actually Samech Mem, and then Aleph and Lamed, right? And this is like the king of the evil side, right? So we don't say the name, except for we say the names of angels if they're used as common human names. So we can say, for example, Gavriel or Michael, even though they're names of Malachim. Why don't we say the names? Because it said that when you say the name of such a force, it draws that force into the world. So we're so careful never to say this name of the Samech Mem, because we don't want to draw that tremendous power of evil into the world, right? So he's kind of like the king of the evil side, right? So there's a female force on the evil side also, which is spelled with a Lamed Yud, and then another Lamed Yud and a Taf, right? You know this word. We don't say her name because she's the queen of the evil side, and so we can say we'll call her we'll call her Lil, the Lil, right? But it's a tremendously powerful negative, death-like spiritual force. So this aspect of the spleen that causes sadness is connected to this spiritual force of Lil. Ima de Erev Rav, the mother of the mixed multitudes, the Erev Rav, the evil portion that was brought out of Mitzrayim and came part of the Jewish people. Schoik HaKasil, also the laughter, the levity of the fool. Man Kasil, who's the fool? Da Kel Acher. This is what's called Kel Acher, other God. Other God, Ayin Sham. And this aspect of other God is the Samech Mem. So, just like, normally, we wouldn't want to say such a thing. But we know this concept we talk about all the time. Ze Lumas Ze, Asa Elokim. Just like there's 10 spheres of Kedusha, 10 spheres of holiness, there's 10 spheres of Tumah. Just like there's powerful, good spiritual forces, there's powerful negative spiritual forces. Just like there's a Moshe Rabbeinu, there's a Bilam, right? We have these corresponding things. So I can't say the words. I should be able to, but I can't. I'm just going to say, just like we have these positive spiritual forces that come together on the good side. We have Kuchabrichu Shechinte, the Kadosh Baruch Hu and the Shechina. We have Abba V'Ima. We have Zer Anpin and Nukva. We have Yaakov and Leah, Yisrael Sab and Tavuna, that make holy, holy, holy unions. Right? I can't say them so close together. I can't do it. We'll take a break for a second. So on the other side, we have the Samech Mem and the Lil. And they are the masculine, feminine forces on the evil side. Very negative, very powerful, just death and sadness and pain. The worst of the worst. Ve'ihu askara l'revaya de'inun chayavin. And she is the death that afflicts the infants of those who are guilty. This is her. Chaychis b'hoin be'usra b'hay alma. She ensnares them with wealth in this world. Ulabasar katilas line. And afterwards she kills them. So this, the worst, most evil, terrible, death-like, sadness, depression, pain, suffering, evil force in the world, the Tikkunei Zohar says about her that she's the force that kills the infants of evil, bad people, and she sucks people in, ensnares people in this world with what? With money, with wealth, with this desire. The worst, most evil, tumadik, yucky force in the world draws us in with the desire for money. And then what? Ulabasar katilas line. And afterward kills us. That's what she does. These who are sunken into the taiva for money, they're living in this realm of you're going to eat your bread in sadness. It's all going to be sadness. Which is the aspect of the spleen. Sadness and depression and melancholy. Ribui daigos, extra worry, a lot of worry. And they're sunken into, they're buried in the face of the evil side, the kel acher, the samech mem, and this lil. This is all this aspect of the tichol, the spleen. Ima de Erev Rav, her, the mother of the mixed multitudes. The levity of the samech mem, of the fool, kel acher. This is where it all comes from. This is where this all comes from. Like the worst possible imaginable place. The worst source of negativity and pain and suffering and sadness in the world is where the desire for money comes from. And that's why we see it's so destructive. It's so destructive. Like it's hard to think. You almost can't think of anything else in the world, in the whole world, that causes more problems. That is brings out more evil in the world than an impure, unhealthy desire for money. And the only other thing that does it so much is the taiva for taivas niyuf, for illicit adulterous relationships. I'm telling you, I don't have to tell you. Look around the world, you'll see it. It causes every problem. Money and niyuf. It's the most destructive forces in the world. Maybe power also, but it's tied up in it. It's tied up in it. And this is what is written over there. And afterwards she kills the person. Certainly the money, which is this connection to sadness, is going to kill them. Because that mammon of the money of that person is death. Darkened faces, sadness. This is okay. So we have two choices now. We can connect ourselves to I trust in you, Hashem. We can connect ourselves to Emunah. We can connect ourselves to the holiness of Hashem and the Shechina. The Shechina. So on the good side, the Shechina is the female energy, right? Kadosh Baruch Hu and the Shechina are the masculine and female energy of holiness. We can attach ourselves to this. We can desire the Shechina and desire all the good and all the holiness and all the shefa, the divine flow of energy and simcha and happiness that comes from the Shechina and the good side and a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Or we can attach ourselves to this most disgusting, painful, negative, sad force in the world of the Samech Mem and the Lil. These are our two choices, right? The choice should be clear. So if you look now, if you remember, earlier on, we explained this saying that happens in the Gemara, that when someone would get married, they would say to them, Matzah and Maitzah, right? You found or are you finding? And the issue was over there, there's two psukim. One says, Matzah Isha Matzah Toiv, I found this woman, I have found good. And the other one says, I don't think he quoted over here, let's hope I can remember it. V'ani moitzeh asa isha mar mimavis. I find this woman to be more bitter than death. Right? So now we can see something deeper about this statement. It's not just a joke. It's not just some funny way to talk about husband and wife relationships. Right? Like I'm sure when wives get together, they say funny things about their husbands. Probably, I don't know. When husbands get together, they say funny things about their wives. Not saying anything. I refuse to respond. Okay, but there's something deep over here. What kinds of isha? What kind of feminine spiritual force are you attaching yourself to? Are you attaching yourself to toiv, to good, to the side of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Shechina? Are you attaching yourself to the bitterness, mar mimavis, more bitter than death, of this negative side? Where are we going? So he says, parnasa de kedush. 1 second. Have you found or are you finding? The desire for money in this way is moitza ani mar mimaves es isha. I find this woman to be more bitter than death. Moitza ani mar mimaves ze haisha v'da techol. The Tikkunei Zohar says over there, this very statement, I find her more bitter than death, is this woman. And this aspect of the spleen, that the two that are connected, this force of the lil, the Tikkunei Zohar says is what this statement is talking about. Parnasa de kedusha, but parnasa in a holy way. Hu bechinas matzah isha matzah toiv. Oh, I found this female existence. I found good. Shu bechinas tzaddik. This is the aspect of the tzaddik. Ki tzaddik ha'emes nitzo mizeh. The tzaddik emes, the true tzaddik, is saved from this whole existence. Kein hamamen mazik loy. The money does not damage the tzaddik. Ki alav ne'emar, because it says about a tzaddik, toiv lifnei ha'elokim yemalit mimenu. The person who is toiv, who is good before God, will be saved from it. Just like it said over there in the Tikkunei Zohar. Va'amai iskarihu ravia. Why is it that the Avodah Zarah is called a child, is called Ravya? Begin delay is behind das the ishtezva mine. Because they don't have the das, the understanding, the knowledge to run away from her, to run away from this negative force. Ava lev mevin ishtezev mine the taman tzadik. But the person who has an understanding heart runs away from her. Right? Why? To where the tzaddik is. Beraza demila, and a hint to this Indian is Tov v'fnei halokim yemalet mimena v'choite yilachid ba. And the Tikkun Zohar says, all talking about this the lil and this terrible negative force, says this is what this verse is saying. The pasuk says, the one who is good before God will flee from her, and the choite, the sinner, will be ensnared by her. Right? What did the Tikkun Zohar say about her? That she ensnares people in this world through money. That's her snare. That's what the most bitter, negative, terrible force in the world does to pull us in. It puts this negative relationship with money in front of us. So it's pashat pshat, chevra. It's a simple understanding. We don't have to go deep over here. A second. Let's just read the next paragraph and then we'll talk about it. Kitzar chachma v'das gadol lezeh. You need to have a lot of wisdom and das and understanding for this. Shaloi yazikenu hamamon, that the money should not damage you. Shaloi yechalech yemei chayav, that the days of your life should not be consumed with money. Ki rov ha'olam nilchadu b'zeh. Most of the world is ensnared by this. Hainu b'tayvas mamon, in this desire for money. V'mamon hareges u'meimisayisam, and the money kills and kills. 2 words for kills them. You cannot be saved from this ki'im al yadei hatzadik, except for through the tzaddik. Shenemar alav. Why? He's not making this up, Rabbi Nachman. He's quoting from the Tikkun Zohar. It's this person who's called toiv, who's called good before God. The tzaddik is the Tikkun Zohar said the taman tzaddik. That's the tzaddik. Who ashrei lo. Fortunate he is such a person, right? So I'm saying over here, I believe this is one of those situations where everybody is just saying, yeah, this is obvious. Everybody feels it. It's very easy to intuit this, and everyone, I'm sure, has experienced it on one level or another. But there's this existence out there, and it's so powerful, and it's so ensnaring. And it can cause so much pain in the world. Just think, you for sure know some people who have some type of bitter dispute because of money. You probably know, I don't know, I can think of a few, of families that have parted because of money. Right? You for sure know people who have been divorced because of money, I'm sure. Or at least it's a portion of it. Right? Right? We all see destruction that happens with famous people because of money. We see it's all over the news. Everywhere we look, we see it. Not to mention, just if you've ever been in such a situation, the way that a person's life feels when they're in this state of taivas mammon, of be'itzava and techalena, when money for a person is eating their bread in sadness, and is marbe nechasim marbe daiga. The more I have, the more worry I have, the more stress I have, the worse I feel, right? It's such an existence of even without the fighting with other people and the destructive relationships. A person's life is terrible when they're living in this state of connection with money. They're not happy, they're sad, they're stressed, they're worried. Like he said over here, we know they need medical help for stress sometimes. It's such a painful, terrible way to live. And how do you get out of it? He's saying over here, it's not a switch that you could flip, but we know very clearly, and I'm sure, I don't know how many of us, but many of us have experienced that there's a way out. And when you start to be drawn after the wisdom of the tzaddikim, and you start to attach yourself to it, not just listen and be like, okay, that's interesting. Really start to connect and listen. And try to take the advice of the tzaddikim and put it into place, to do what they tell us to do. Just learning their Torah and brings a new light into us, chases away all these negative forces, right? The Torah itself is right. Hashem made the Yetzer Hara and He made Torah Tavlin. The Torah is a medicine against this stuff. So connecting to the tzaddik emes, a tzaddik emes, whatever you want to say it, right? Who can have a spiritual pull on a person, can lift our neshamas up, and the Torah of a tzaddik emes can light us up from the inside, can give us practical advice, can pull us in the right direction, right? So hopefully some of us here have had such an experience where I had some type of awakening and things changed and I was able to shed some of this negativity of my relationship with money. Or maybe I'm just hearing it for the first time now and I'm saying, I got to do something about this because I'm the guy who has this relationship with money. Or maybe we're somewhere in the middle where there's been some awakening and I realize that there's still a long way to go. Whatever it is, we can all connect to this inyan and this Torah in some type of deep way, and we can know one thing also that we always say. We always say we don't read and learn the Torahs of Rabbi Nachman or of anyone for that matter, saying that we're going to hear one thing and that's it, that's the ticket. That's all we have to do. Right? But rather we say and we understand that everything that we learn, all of the advice that we get, all of the tools that we get are just another tool to go in our tool belt that we can use as a way to continue to get closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Closer and closer to removing the layers of klipa and shmutz that are covering us. Everything is like this. So we're being opened up to a whole new level of what's the word that I want to use over here? A whole new vision of the stakes of the game here, right? We're seeing a very, very serious divide of which way we can go over here. And the filth and the danger that's on one side and the beauty and the good that's on the other side. So I think we'll hold it there for today. It's 57 minutes. And we'll start next week back on page 52 here. Ayin Sham, yeah, perfect place to start. Actually, I'm sorry, we're going to say 2 more paragraphs because then we get to the next letter. It's 57 minutes now of the class. If anyone needs to leave, it's okay, but we're going to finish this up. Okay. Ayin Sham. So see over there in the Tikkunei Zohar. V'tira niflais, you'll see wondrous things. Eich ata shepasach Rabbeinu, now that Rabbi Nachman has blown this open for us. Zichron Livracha. Es einenu v'gila lanu es hakdamus hachadash, and he revealed to us these new hakdamas, these new introductions, v'niflais, and wonders, hamavarim le'el b'Torah zois, that he explained in this Torah. Ata mavarim heitev divrei tikkunim. Now, when you read the Tikkunei Zohar over there, you're going to see something unbelievable that you wouldn't be able to see before. Ki ata mavarim sham kol divrei Rabbeinu re'eh v'havin v'chacham. Go over there, learn the Tikkunei Zohar, if you have time, and you will see something amazing. Go, understand it, and become wise. He says, Ayin Sham, Tikkun Ayin, see over there, in Tikkun number 70, Hanal, Mashakasav Sham, what he writes over there, Im Zacha, and Ezer, Vim Lav, Kanegdoi. If you merit, she, that female spiritual force, will be an Ezer, will be a help, and if not, she'll be Kanegdoi, she'll be against you. Ale Itmar, on it says, says, Isha, I find this woman to be more bitter than death. Vedat Techol Shabsai. This is the what's it called? The spleen, which is Saturn also. Hainu Bechinas Atzvus Mar Shechora, which is sadness and bitterness. Shu Bechinas Techol, which is the spleen. Shabsai is Saturn. Pesaya Ukama Kayadua, which is also the black vessel, as is known. I don't know what that means. Ezer. So that's the negative side. That's the connector side. What's the Ezer? As we said, Da Shechinta. That's the Shechina. Alei Itmar. On her it says, Matza Isha Matza Toiv. I found this lady, this female source. I found good. V'yafek Ratzain Me Hashem. And I'm now given Ratzain, favor from Hashem. Ubegin Da. Hava Amre Mare Mas Nisin Matzo Emoitza, and it's because of this that the Tanaim in the Gemara in the Mishnah said this thing of Matzo Emoitza. This is what they really meant. Have you found the other side, the evil side, the lil, or have you found the good side, the shchina? Ayin sham heitev v'havein. See very well over there and understand. You'll see that all the words of Rabbi Nachman Zichron Livracha Mevarim ata sham betikun gimel hanal be'er heitev. You'll see how the words of Rabbi Nachman over here now are clear as day, and are amazing over there in the Tikkun Zohar. It's one of the most amazing things when you can learn the Torah of Rabbi Nachman and then go and see how it fits into something Kabbalistic. Because there's, like, I think I've told you before, I have a close friend named Rabbi Duvid Yosef Kidabinsky. He's a Kabbalist, he lives here in Toronto. He also gives a shiur on Likutei Moharan. But it's almost like we're learning a different sefer. Because his shiur is just based on how it fits in with Kabbalah. Right? The way I relate to Rabbi Nachman is very personal. How does it speak to us? What does it give to us? Where do we go? How do we take it? And he sees a lot more of the science, Kabbalistic science in it, like, you know, how these things fit together. But you can take, if you know some Kabbalah, very often in Rabbi Nachman's lessons or in the stories in particular, you see how what Rabbi Nachman is saying is complete Kabbalah, like from Aleph to Taf. It's, obvious examples are the Lost Princess. You know, you have the king and you have the 6 sons and the daughter who's very precious, which are the 6 lower spheres of Zeranpin, and the daughter is the Malchus, and it's obvious and open. But every step of that way, there's Kabbalah after Kabbalah, and we just if you know it, it's there. So if you learn something like this, and Rav Nosson is telling us now that you learned all this and you saw what Rabbi Nachman said, now go look at the Tikkunei Zohar, and you're going to see what Rabbi Nachman is saying, that he's going to show you what the Tikkunei Zohar is really saying. You're going to see it in a whole different light, a whole different depth that you never would have been able to before. He finishes off Rav Nosson by saying, Zoisa Torah, hi Lashon Rabbeinu. This Torah was in the words of Rabbi Nachman, Zichron Livracha, ba'atzmai, himself. Ad makom shenirsham le'el, until that point where we said earlier in the shiur today that it was the words of Rabbi Nachman. Umisham v'hala hu milashoni. He says, from there onward, it's my words, says Rav Nosson. Masha shemati oid devarim sheloi nisbaru b'lashoni hakadosh. Other things that I heard from him, pardon me, that were not written down in his lashon, va'oid, in his language, va'oid le'aleya milin, and additionally, I don't know what this means. 1 second. I heard more godly words from him. Masha shamati v'hevanti mipiv hakadosh. This that I heard and understood from his holy mouth. Be'isha zachiti lishmaya mipiv hakadosh Torah zois. When I merited, said Rav Nosson, to hear him give over this Torah in his own words. He sat and listened to Rabbi Nachman himself speaking over this whole entire lesson after it had been written down, and he heard so many amazing things. So he says v'zehu, and now the next number of pages, which we could theoretically get through next week, but it'll probably take us 2 more weeks, are going to be Rav Nosson now giving us more of a deep understanding of everything in this Torah. Rav Nosson's words are going to be more expressive, more explanatory, and more shaykh. We're going to see more things about how we relate to all these deep ideas ourselves, even though it's been pretty amazing so far. But we'll see. So we'll continue to next week in Ois Zion, page 54 in this book. And for now, does anyone have anything to add?